a special guest that I'm going to be doing an interview with. This is actually, I'm very excited about this. He's a really cool dude, hailing from, I don't know where in Canada, but here it is. Rory from Channel 3 Live. How you doing, Rory?
Live, 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 live,
Live,
live,
live.
live. Yo, crazy. What's up?
Nothing much, man.
Vancouver, by the way. Vancouver.
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 Okay, yeah. Yeah, so like way on the other spectrum of where I am, and I'm in Michigan.
The best
So
coast, they call it. The best coast, yeah.
the west side is the best side from what I've been hearing. Like strange enough, here even in Grand Rapids, Michigan, we have a west side, and that's like the call title that everybody has on the west side.
Wouldn't you know it? Everywhere has a west side.
You know,
It's strange.
like you live in West Canada and I live in West Michigan. So, damn it. You know what? I just realized I totally forgot to fucking share this, but it is what it is. We'll just continue on with it. So I decided to try to get an interview with you, kind of just for two main reasons. A lot of the shit that you do on your channel, with your setup, the things that you do with interacting with the crowd, I find to be incredibly interesting, and I don't know why you don't have more viewers than you already do. And secondly, because well, I'm using you as a guinea pig in order to break bones on how to interview a motherfucker. So I guess the first question that I would have to get out of you is like, what got you into doing like live streaming on Twitch, and how long ago did you start?
Yeah, so you know what? It's funny. Like I didn't watch streams before I started streaming, really. And I still don't watch a ton of streams. What it was I just I have this little bit of like a theater kid in me, and I never, in high school I was too busy trying to be in the cool kids group, skateboarding and partying, and I didn't do what I should have been doing all along, which was drama and things like that, and theater and whatnot. And I also wasn't able to sort of like spend money and have a good computer, and the whole idea of streaming and like putting myself out there was just like this huge technical thing that I was just like, it would just seemed really far beyond me as far as like the gear and things and know-how and whatnot. But I wanted to find a way to kind of be able to do some, I don't know, entertaining things and just put myself out there. Cut to 2013, Xbox releases the Xbox One, and Sony with the PS4 with built-in Twitch apps. And that was it. That was like my sign where I went, oh shit, like, because I always buy new consoles. I'm a big gamer, but not a PC guy. But that was my thing. And I went, oh, it's all built in. I can stream from this. So that was like my toe into it. I did a through Xbox Live on the Xbox One and Twitch app. I did a once a week 1 hour stream. That's all it was. It was Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. It was a late night talk show in a sense, where I would invite friends over from the movie industry or game industry. We would play a game, talk for an hour, and I would have like a surprise guest show up, and that was sort of like the theatrical side. So it just kind of, I have to thank Microsoft and Sony for saying, hey, the streaming is, thing of the future as well for, yeah, the console games and all that, and building those apps in there. It was just something that I needed an outlet, basically, that was at home and easy to do and didn't involve a bunch of people and making plans and going out. And the apps on the Xbox One is what got me started. I did that for about almost a year, and then decided now I want to do more. I like this. I like doing the streaming, but I can't do it on the Xbox One forever because you can't do any custom stuff.
Right.
So that was it. So I just said, okay, got myself a cheap computer and just started dabbling. Same thing, just, random streams on a different channel, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And then I had a kid. Derailed, not derailed, but I took a break from streaming for like 2 years at that point. And then when the kid turned 2, I said, let's do it. I'm ready. I want to get back into it. And then Channel 3 was created. And then that basically took all the lessons that I had sort of been learning, years ago when I was dabbling and figuring things out. I just kind of brought all of that together and created what I do now.
Okay. So you weren't always Channel 3 Live?
No. Channel 3 Live has been a thing now for about 2 years. With a huge like 6-month break in between, because the wife and I actually separated. So when I hit when Channel 3 Live, it's okay. It's not a sad story and whatnot. It's we're all happier. But that
Right.
that took that put a stop to Channel 3 Live right as I was about to hit the 1 year mark of the stream. I took about a 7-month break roughly, and then got back going again. Just basically February of this year is when I was like, okay, I'm back. Let's do this. And now it's been, it
All
is what
right.
it is.
Yeah, I actually got in contact with I believe it's actually a mutual follower of ours, Tree Man. He actually introduced me over to your channel. It's like, hey, if you like retro shit, you got to check out Rory.
Tim,
So
yeah.
I did, and I was just like, this dude is fantastic.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Everything about your channel to me legitimately feels like 1991.
Good.
So
Good.
that,
That was the whole purpose, really. It was just, I wanted it to be a comfortable sort of nostalgia den. You come over and you feel like you're just hanging out at your friend's house. But I knew that I needed to do a little bit more, and I wanted to do more. I couldn't just sit there and play video games. And don't get me wrong, a lot of my stream is me just hanging out and chatting and playing video games. But I had to be creatively fulfilled, and that's not creatively fulfilling to me. I always say Channel 3 Live is not really about the video games, like I'm not the best player, I'm a casual gamer. I love video games. I've grown up with them, but Channel 3 Live isn't really about the games and celebrating the games. It's about a place to just sort of like come out and shoot the shit with friends and soak in some nostalgia and have conversations about movies and video games and whatnot. But it's not really about the games,
Yeah, I totally understand. Because like other than the games, like you might as well just drop out what it is that you have on there, rather than just gaming. I have also seen that like when you go on break, you also end up throwing in like old school commercials for video games and toys and cereal and things of that nature. What are some of the other things that you have done aside from that to like keep that Channel 3 nostalgia factor?
Really, it's just like I build everything that the whole channel is built around the idea of an old TV station, right? And so whether it's right down to the overlays, it's right down to the intros, it's right down to the alerts, everything that is done for the channel is built around the idea of taking you back in time. So all my alerts are custom creations of multiple me's popping up singing pop songs from the 80s and 90s, like a lot of Whitney Houston and Aha and things like that. All the emotes, everything is just sculpted around that nostalgia. All the emotes are Alf and Inspector Gadget and He-Man and things like that.
Yeah, see, like that, this is all stuff definitely I am absolutely in love with. Most recently, the one thing that I've really seen, because I was watching you do I was actually like, obviously, you're not just stuck in retro gaming. I've seen you also do VRs of Resident Evil, and you and I were talking about this prior to the show. Like, you ended up taking the time to edit out an entire scene with Falcor from the Neverending Story flying, and you get to ride on Falcor.
Yeah, that was a little bit more work than I anticipated, but that's sort of what I'm talking about, where it's like I can't just play games, where while a lot of the stream is that, if I'm not creatively fulfilled and doing these outside of the box things and trying to push myself and figure out, like, can I do something like this, can I pull this off, then I'm not happy, and I don't enjoy the process, right? So it's like I'm just constantly trying to bring something new and surprising and fun, like that Falcor flight. And yeah, that was a neat thing. One day I'm just a huge, it's again with the nostalgia. I grew up with Neverending Story, and I live in the 80s and the 90s still. Like, I love it. I'm surrounded by VHS tapes and play on CRTs. Like, that's just what I do. But with the Falcor thing, I thought I would really love to fly Falcor. That's always been a dream. How can I do it? Can I do it? And then I tried to look up. I always look to see if somebody's already done the hard work first. Is there like is there just a Falcor that's already been pulled out of the movie with green behind it that I can maybe use and rework and whatever. And in this case, there wasn't. So I literally like went through the movie and found scenes where I think I could potentially grab a few frames and loop it. And I took screenshots of all of those scenes in the movie, then took those screenshots into Photoshop, cut out Falcor frame by frame, through all that, then took those cutouts of Falcor back into Adobe Premiere, stitched them all together to create a new animation, loop that animation, and then figure out what I can use and actually splice together to make that Falcor flight thing. And then I do the layering and set up the scenes, and then it's all about figuring out the scene switches in real time. And also because I work on an old Elgato that plugs in the composites right into my games, it's all delayed. So like when I do the Falcor thing as an example, just to give you an idea of what's happening behind the scenes, I have to look at it and delay all my stuff by a second to kind of like match with Falcor and all that as well. It's like this really, it's quite annoying, really, pulling that stuff off, but it's fun.
But yeah, because like, like I had done, I did AV back in high school, and that is something to a level that I don't think that I would have the patience for. But you, on the other hand, were able to fucking pull this off.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's I have this sort of I get these fits of passion where it's like I have this idea and I have to see if I can do it, right? Whether that's making a costume or something. Like when I'm doing Halloween costumes, I'd like to build a costume that I can show friends that are actual costumers, and they go, "How the fuck did you do that?" Like I just can't help myself. So that's why it'll always be rough around the edges, but it's always me trying something new. And the Falcor thing was neat because like that ultimately, if I was making a pre-edited video, that could be much tighter and I could spend all kinds of time on it. But that's actually like multiple layers and it's all happening live. So doing those things live in real time is I'm proud of that stuff, to be honest with you. It's one of those things where I feel like, hey, this is kind of neat. It's a surprising thing for viewers. They're not expecting it, and it kind of brings a smile to people's faces. So that's, at the end of the day, hard work. But if somebody smiles, I feel like it was all worth it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't know. For me, it's like, I don't know. I guess in a sense, like ADHD kind of kicks in, and it, I don't know. For me personally, like just about everything that I do, like everything kind of has to be like kind of perfect. If you've ever seen me play, like anybody who knows me on a more personal level has seen me play, like say Final Fantasy or something, and I'll like play the game. It'll be like halfway, so I'm done with half of the game, and then something else grabs my attention, and then I'm like, okay, well, I want to get back to Final Fantasy. I don't know where I am in Final Fantasy. Fuck it, start over.
Yeah,
like, you put in like 12 hours of work and you're just going to start over. Yeah. Why? Because it's just not perfect.
You gotta do it. Yeah, I'm a perfectionist in a lot of ways, but it was one of those big things for me. It was like with the live segment of it, I just kind of I got to a point mentally where I went, you need to reset what your idea of perfect is in this bubble, in this live bubble, because you're never going to be able to do what you can do off stream in an edit software, like building this thing as a pre-made thing. Like you on your own with the resources you have, like this is your personal bar now. So like for this stuff, so don't feel like it's not perfect because you're not hitting here. I had to reset my brain because I realized there was a certain level that was unattainable that I had to accept. And that's allowed me to kind of go, okay, like with the Falcor thing, like, trust me, man, I was like, like, it's like, it wasn't like where I had it in my head, ultimately, but I was like, fuck, like, I could spend another 100 hours on this and it might not look much different, or I might fuck it up. So like, let's just go. This is what it is. It's live. People are going to like it. Let's go. And that's one of those things too, you probably know as well. Like when you're creating stuff, all you see is the faults, right? All you see is the shit that you could have done, you didn't do, you wish you could have done better, but nobody else sees that stuff. They're seeing it raw for the first time and they're loving it.
Yeah, you are your own worst critic, is basically how the saying goes, I believe.
Yeah, nobody is harder on my stuff than myself.
But yeah, but when you see, like, you could see the painstaking fucking pressure of having to do frame by frame on every single, on every single shot for that Falcor scene. And then when it finally comes to fruition and you actually show it to everybody and everybody's just like fanboying the hell out of themselves, seeing you fly on a luck dragon.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. It's like the scariest part was not knowing if it was actually going to work when I first did it. That first time doing it. Like I know, before I go live, like I'm practicing the buttons and it's there, but actually doing it and being like, okay, everybody, are you ready? Here I go. I'm gonna climb on him. Like, is this gonna work? Am I gonna fumble and hit the wrong button? Am I gonna fuck this up? Like,
Is your
is it
leg
all gonna
going to
like
be
time out?
covering part of Falcor, shit like that?
Everything. Is my green screen lined up? If I fucked it, like anything, like one thing in the whole like, thing will be
Mm,
ruined for me personally, right? And it
right.
was like but once it that first feeling of once it happened and the final wipe went and I was back on the ground standing there, I was like, yeah, all right, we did it.
Right. So aside from the Falcor thing, I guess I gotta like it's understandable for me because I grew up in the same era as you did, but like the Channel 3 live thing and everything being retro, it's like for me it kind of makes sense. For people who might not know, like why would you call yourself Channel 3 Live?
Oh yeah, well, back in the day, for those that don't know, if you're our age, you likely do know, but if you're a little bit younger, it's an easy thing to miss for sure. That the consoles and the RF units on the back used to have a little switcher, so you could set the switcher box to channel 3 or channel 4, depending on where the signal was coming through on your VCR, etc. And vast majority of people would have it set to channel 3, and the crazy people would have it set to channel 4. They were
I
few and far between.
I totally agree with that 100%. Channel 3 for me all day. My
Channel
cousins,
3.
on the other hand, like they had their set to Sega Genesis, and I was like, why? Well, because channel like here in Michigan, like at the time I was living in Lansing, Michigan, Channel 3 was actually a station. And we were like, well, we put it on channel 4 so that way, we could watch what's on channel 3. But channel 3 sucked. Like the video content on channel 3 sucks. We're playing Mortal Kombat here. What's more fun?
I wish too I could take credit for the name. I actually didn't come up with that name originally myself. It was I had other ideas in mind because I was thinking about like branding and characters and like maybe a website.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point it was like there was like this like game guru thing and all this like weird stuff. There was like oh man, I can't even like remember, but just like odd things. And I finally was just like nothing was landing for me, didn't feel right. And I put a call out on Facebook to my friends and whatnot. And was like, listen, everybody, like I've got this idea. I want to stream from my closet. It's all retro, like all the time. Here's the deal. It's all original hardware and stuff. Like I'm looking for something, a name that like kind of speaks to that or whatever. And this guy Ramsey pops down and in the comments and he just said channel 3. Remember the old RF thing? And I looked at it and I was just like right away I was like, that's it. Because like I can use the 3 as the logo itself. You can see it as a silhouette, the coloring, I could see it all. You look for that silhouette, right? That you can create of your logo or something that stands out from a distance where if you just saw the shape of it, you would know what it is and recognize it. And I just went, oh shit, the 3. Channel 3. Oh my God, Channel 3 Live. This is it. That's it. Right away. That was it. And then that was it. The name took on a life of its own, and then everything was built around that. And
Right.
then you see it happen. Like you go back to my very first stream, and it's super basic. The overlay is not what it is, and then it's about a month in, all of a sudden you see like, okay, you see the channel transform very quickly as the idea starts to really like form. What is Channel 3 really? It's a station. It's this. Oh, and then you see the switch go, and all of a sudden the stream is like it comes back. It's got the look it does. It's got the commercials. It's fully invested in what the theme is.
Yeah. So like when you see Rory doing a live stream with the retro shit, it legitimately the whole screen looks like an RCA TV, and then the game is playing in the middle, and where the switch boxes is, you'll see like I'm looking at it right now. Like you'll see like all of the alerts that he's gotten, his chat, and his little screen, his screen that he shows. And the one thing that I find very cool too is like when you go on break and stuff, like you'll have it set so that way it switches around and it'll start playing old school commercials
Yeah.
on the main screen, and it legitimately looks like you're playing. Everything is playing because it shows like you're not. I'm pretty sure you're not using like filters or anything like that.
Nope.
To like everything about your channel is 100% authentic.
Yes.
Whether it be like the commercials, so everything looks grainy, and the video game play is also like via like you're still playing via RF.
Yeah, I play on the base cables that come in. So I'm not streaming any RF stuff right now, but I'm streaming everything through composite straight in. And so yeah, you're just getting the raw composite feed, just like you would when you opened up your Super Nintendo and bought it and plugged it in with your red, white, and yellows. There's no upscaling, there's no fancy conversion happening or anything like that. It's just this raw stream. It is what it is. I've always said that with the game stuff. You know, it's like, this is what it is. This is the charm of the channel. It's not perfection. It's not about bleeding edge. It's about presenting it as raw as I can. And there it is.
Like, this is something that you and I kind of differ from, because I want to have, like, me personally, I don't mind scan lines or anything like that, but I want to make things look as like, you know, for me and my channel, like, I want it to actually be as crisp as possible. So like, is it just so like, when it concerns you, like, just keeping it natural with everything going on with composite and everything of that nature, like, was that like by choice, or were you just like, I want to do something a little bit different than everybody else?
Well, initially it was just because of resources. You know, like when I was shaping the channel and whatnot, and because I don't, you know, especially at the beginning of the stream, like when I started ChannelThreeLive, like I really wasn't involved in the retro community or like the Twitch community, really. Like I always, even when I did the stream before, it was always really, it was just me doing my thing. I wasn't aware of like what people were doing, you know, with their streams and what, you know, was happening. And I'm still only, you know, now, you know, discovering more and more as far as like what people are accomplishing on their streams and what's inspiring me and whatnot, and kind of getting out there in the communities a little bit more. I rambled. What the hell was your fucking question? What were we talking about?
I don't know if it was a question. I think I was just generalizing. My question. Oh yeah, my question was like, you know, whether or not it was just a
Oh, on purpose
choice.
or whatnot. Yeah. No, it was
Yeah.
it was a limitation of just money and space and gear and setup, and then it grew on me. Right. The only thing that I would like to incorporate into it is a simple. I would like to actually have a light scan line effect, but the problem I'm having with it is because what happens with my stream right now is I play on a CRT, so I see the game as it's designed, and a lot of those games were designed with scan lines in mind, right? To sort of like fill it all in and help the image kind of come together. Now, when I stream that stuff, obviously through the cables, the scan lines aren't part of that. They're part of my TV. So you guys don't see that. So now you're seeing the image presented without the scan lines as it was naturally presented in the first place. So I would love to be able to, and I've been experimenting with it, to have scan lines on my stream so that it actually fully looks like it does on my TV, which would actually make it look better for you guys as well, without increasing the visual quality. It would just look tighter because it would match my screen, my CRT. Okay. But the problem I've run into, and if anybody out there is listening to this and you have a solution, please let me know, because I haven't figured it out in my messing around, is the scalability of the scan lines. So like I would design them for my screen here and whatnot. But when I scaled that image down and look back on it on like an iPhone, thinking that people are watching this on big screen TVs, they're watching on their computers, they're watching on iPads, they're watching on their little phones. The moment I started looking at it on a tiny screen, the line density and everything in the scan lines that look normal and attractive on a bigger screen all of a sudden became too dense, created like a gray film over the screen. It didn't really look like scan lines anymore. It looked like an extra screen was thrown over top of it because it wasn't scaling properly with the image. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Anyway, it's probably an easy workaround, but that's why scan lines have never appeared on my stream, because I won't do it unless it will improve the look of the stream ultimately, and it only improved the look of the stream on one size of screen. The moment it went to an iPhone, it looked bad, so I couldn't do it.
Yeah, like, I mean, with me, like, if I had the capability to force the scan lines for some of the, you know, for some of the stuff that I do on mine, like, because for, you know, for like Game Boy games and Game Boy Advance games, the only way that I've been able to play those games is with like a clone system, like a Retron 5, and that has the capability to add scan lines to it, but everything is still in HDMI. There's some systems that I have that are still doing like the composite feel and everything on my channel, like my regular Nintendo, but almost everything else has been converted via HDMI because it has the capabilities. Like, I've literally spent more time than I should probably educating myself on this type of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
I'm open to it in the future. You know, it's like as things I always said on the stream initially, like it's only going to be retro. This is what it is. I'll never go back on it. But then I bought a PlayStation VR last month, and I was like, this is, and it's my first time owning VR in the house, right? And I was like, this is cool. Like, but with my schedule with the kid, it's like, well, I want to stream this stuff, but like, when am I going to play this? If I the only way to play this is to like not stream. You know, that's my game time is my stream time. So it was like, if I'm gonna play this, then I'm not gonna be able to stream. And I was like, fuck it. Like, I have to go back on what I said like years ago. I'm gonna stream a little bit of VR. Like that's just, you know, it is what it is. And I might do that with video quality on the games at some point. You know, like it tickles in the back of my head every now and again. Like, you know, over the last couple of months, like, well, maybe I should, you know, look into like retro tanks and like an upscale through or something. And I think the biggest thing is when you're streaming and whatnot, never pigeonhole yourself. You know, never corner yourself. Never say something and feel like you can't go back on that for the better of your own stream and whatnot. You know, don't feel tied to something and stuck because it'll only bury you.
oh, like one of the things that I did, like, because I have two channels. This like the one that I mainly do retro streaming on is the Crazy McCormick one, and then I have one called Middle Aged Crazy, which is all of my current gen system stuff. Maybe you should make a channel 4 live and call and have it so that way that one ends up being where you do all the VR shit. That would be fun.
It's funny enough. I thought about doing like a weird doppelganger thing and whatnot, but I also didn't want to split the audience. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it was one of those things where it's like the VR and the modern stuff is going to be it's still going to be slim by comparison. You know, it'll be 95%. Like my channel's still a retro channel. And ultimately, yeah, I just didn't want to split the audience. I know there was some people that are retro that are into that stuff as well. Some people aren't, and it's just it is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
I've come to the place too with my stream where it's like I would love for my stream to grow, you know, and more people to find it and whatnot, but I don't do it for that, you know. I just need to be able to sort of have fun.
Yeah, I mean, I do. Like that. Like, I want people to watch my shit. Ironically, like you, I don't really try to get into watching a whole lot of other people doing stuff. It's I don't know why. I think like for me as a kid, like I would much rather play the game than to watch. And I watched enough because I got grounded a lot. So I wouldn't be able to play the game, but I could sit there and watch somebody else do it, and I'd be like, man, this is so boring. I understand like Ninja Gaiden's fast paced, but I can't stand watching this. And because like you're watching somebody else, it's like, okay, you screwed up there, like, and you can't tell them shit because then they'll yell at you.
Depends on the streamer for sure. Yeah, for me, ultimately, with watching other streamers, it's one of those things too where it's like it's not that I don't support my friends' work and whatnot. Like I support in every way I can, you know, as far as like sharing stuff, shouting out, just being behind their projects and whatnot. But I just have I have so little me time being a single dad and having my schedule back and forth, and like with the streaming, like if I'm not streaming, I have that very precious little time. And it's like I'm a huge movie guy, so it's sort of like, you know, if it comes down to, you know, watching a stream, you know, I'm watching some old video games or whatever, something on Twitch, or watching a new movie, you know, on Prime or Netflix or something I've rented, whatever, like that's my bread and butter. You know, when I'm watching something passively, I love to watch movies. And you know, I'm a filmmaker myself, so I love getting those stories in 2 hours in and out kind of thing. And with streams too, I've been veering a little bit more into the entertainment streams, as far as if I'm watching something. So like I stumbled upon a guy named Cardboard Cowboy recently, and this guy's stream is totally inspiring to me. And it's not, you know, he plays video games and whatnot, but he's an animator or something, and the whole stream really is just this like psychedelic trip of like cartoon characters. And it's wild. It's absolutely wild. It offers an entertainment value that's different than the norm, you know.
Oh yeah. You know, like I honestly, like when I first started doing stuff on Twitch, like I really had zero interest in watching somebody else. I was like, I don't watch a whole lot of people myself, but I have the capability to be able to exploit other people who do. And then slowly but surely it ended up turning myself into watching other people, watching how they game and things of that nature. And that's one of the ways I came across you.
Well,
And like I started to notice, like, one of the first things that I saw when I started to actually invest in myself was I saw you playing stuff on the Sega Saturn.
yes, love the
And then
Saturn.
and then after that I was just like, this is what the Sega Saturn has? Like, you know, it was just like, this is one of the newer things of mine. And you know, like, and then this was obviously like right around the time that COVID hit and everybody in America started getting their stimulus checks. And I'm like, I got to hit up a disc traders.
Dude,
And
Saturn is the shit. I'm in the minority here, but honestly, I love the Dreamcast. But when everybody was going fanboy over the Dreamcast Mini, I was just kind of like, oh my God. But like, I mean, the Dreamcast is great, but if you were to really look at the library, I think the Sega Saturn has a much more interesting and varied collection of games. Like, but I get the whole idea. Like, PlayStation fucked up with their Mini, the 32-bit generation. It's really is the one that's held up the worst. That first 3D generation, you know, as far
yeah,
as camera and just texture work and texture warping and that them just figuring out 3D games in general. That is the worst holding up generation, I think, if you're looking at things technically speaking. But my God, man, like if I put together a list of Sega Saturn, you know, 25, 30 Sega Saturn games to be on a Mini versus 25 to 30 on the Dreamcast, I think the Saturn's hands down has got the more appealing library. I really
between
do. Dreamcast is great for some fighters and arcade stuff, but man, I just don't think the variety is there.
I definitely agree with you on you know, on how you were, I mean, like, on that specific big up for the Dreamcast, because like when it concerns the Sega Saturn, Street Fighter the movie,
Oh,
like,
is
enough said. Like, in this case I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go play WWF Royal Rumble on the Dreamcast instead.
well, funny enough, Street Fighter the movie on Saturn is actually like not horrible. I mean, it's not great, but it's much better than the arcade version because, like, funny enough, it's not a straight port. The arcade version was atrocious, and it was so bad. Like, Capcom didn't develop the arcade port proper like themselves in house, and it was so bad that when they were bringing it home, they basically remade it. Capcom then did the game for the Saturn. So the Saturn version, I mean, it's not good. It's not good.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
it's not it's a hell of a lot better than the arcade original release was. So
And
if you
like
were intrigued by the arcade release but you thought it was shit, try the Saturn game.
I remember playing, like, this was one of the very few games for the Sega Saturn that I actually played, like that, Worms, and Gex. And when I played Street Fighter, I was like, I was happy with the fact that like every single one of the characters was like, you know, it looked like it was the human scan,
Yeah,
kind of similar to what they do with Mortal Kombat, but
totally.
it
Yeah.
was like, it still felt like Street Fighter 2. So and I'm like, so basically, I'm playing Street Fighter 2 on the Sega Saturn. Um, almost wondering what my ambition is for playing this game, but you know, so like, but honestly, because of your shit, I ended up going out and buying the Sega Saturn.
Nice.
And then the only game that I have for it as of right now is Die Hard Arcade.
Oh, well, I mean, I love Die Hard Arcade. Now, that is a game, if you go back to it, it admittedly is really clunky. It's clunky to play, but I really enjoy that one. I
It,
really do.
it does have a good feel for it being, you know, like kind of like an arcade port. The only difference is loading. Like
Yeah.
that's like it loads something like every single cutscene it has to load. It loads in the middle of the cutscene.
Oh, yeah.
Like if it
Yeah.
has to do like a camera frame cut to, you know, like to a different camera angle in the cutscene, it has to load that. Like,
Yeah. It's not loading a ton of assets up front. You know, that's it was one of the tricky things with that 32-bit Gen 2, right? And then the disk read speeds. And I always think back to like Mortal Kombat 3 and whatnot on the PlayStation, where it was like the Shang Tsung. You know, you want to be Shang Tsung on PlayStation and be able to change into all the different characters. Forget about it because it has to load every time. You want to change into Liu Kang? Hang on, pauses, loads Liu Kang. Okay, now you're Liu Kang.
oh my god. See, yeah, like the 32-bit, I honestly have to say that the 32-bit era this was a combination of like trying to determine what's better between sprites and polygon issues. I think we were talking about that in the chat as you were talking about, like how you felt that there should be a Sega Saturn Mini before they come out with a Sega Dreamcast Mini. I was like, I definitely fully agree to that. Although I'm pretty sure that in the end, a lot of people could probably say in like the 32-bit, 64-bit argument, like I honestly think that it was Nintendo that ended up winning that war, despite being on carts and shit. Like I would much rather play the Nintendo 64 with their kind of shit, just because of the lack of loading. I think that was the biggest issue.
Yeah, it's definitely there's definitely a trade-off there, right? It's funny, like at the time I had the N64 first and I was all about it. And the N64, despite having, I think ultimately the PlayStation by comparison, I think has today the much better library. If really, especially if just for RPGs and action and whatnot. But all that said, some of my favorite games of all freaking time are the N64 launch window games, like Mario 64, Wave Race 64, like get out of here. Like I love that stuff. In my top fives constantly, the placing is always changing, but those are among my favorite games of all time. Absolutely. And nothing like those games was comparable on PlayStation. No 3D platformer could touch the fidelity of Mario 64, and the worlds and the creativity and just the gameplay itself. And with Wave Race, like name another game during that generation that had physics like that, had charm and water like that. Nothing like that. So that was like, those were huge things for me as a kid when I was sort of comparing, my games on N64 to stuff on the PlayStation. But now when I got the PlayStation later on down the line, I really sort of fell for it, with Metal Gear and Resident Evil and things that like, wow, I just wasn't getting these sort of experiences on the N64, like period. They weren't even really being attempted. Like Nightmare Creatures would be like the closest thing. Resident Evil 2 came out and that was actually a pretty impressive port. But the N64 just wasn't home for that stuff. So when I got the PlayStation after the fact, I really started kind of getting into it. And today, as an adult, now that I'm sort of like re-getting into the PlayStation and sort of buying some games up again, I gotta say, if I were to recommend, you could only buy one today, a PS1 or an N64, unless you only liked 3D platformers. If 3D platformers were your favorite genre and that's all you played, I'd say get an N64. But otherwise, man, I'd say you got to get the PlayStation.
Yeah, the PlayStation I felt like had a good blend between like games that had sprite work and being able to multi-layer. As a prime example, like Mega Man X4 and like Mega Man 8, very good sprite work. The backdrop, very excellent with the way that it moves and stuff, much better than the X series and on the Super Nintendo.
Tons of parallaxing and whatnot. Yeah, and I'm playing through Rayman on PS1 right now, and it's stunning, like to look at, like even today.
Right.
And if you look at something like Astal on the Sega Saturn, it doesn't look as clean as something like Rayman, but it has all these incredible scaling sprites, huge scaling sprites that come from small detail in the background and push over top of your character right into the foreground. Lots of stuff happening in the background. Sega really, like, that's where they fumbled, right? Their whole thing was the next generation will be a sprite powerhouse. They really didn't see 3D kind of coming until it was too late, whereas Sony they developed the PlayStation with polygons in mind. You had two machines that were designed with different principles in mind ultimately, and it kind of caught Sega off guard for sure.
I mean, like, I don't know. As a retro fan, for me personally, I love watching sprite work. Like at first, polygons came out. It was just like, look, I understand Lara Croft got big titties, but I don't know if I really want to play Tomb Raider.
For me, it was just solely like, it was like, I love that they were pushing into 3D. I just hated that during that generation, everything had to be 3D. There were very few people that were still hanging on and like making quality 2D sprite-based games. It was like, everything's got to be 3D. Earthworm Jim, 3D. Mega Man, 3D. Everything has got to be 3D now. And it was just that drove me nuts. And you ended up seeing during that generation a little bit of the decline and the death of those great 2D sprite-based action adventures and whatnot. Even to this day, I wish it was still more of a prevalent thing. Just classic beat 'em ups. I love that Streets of Rage 4 has come back. I haven't played it myself yet, but I love that. You know, I want to see more of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, unfortunately, now if we want to continue to see sprite work, it's definitely going to have to come from the homebrew community. Most recently that I've seen is Jay and Silent Bob Mall Brawl. Like Spoony Bard Productions ended up coming out with a video game based off of Mallrats, or like
Nice.
the afterwards of Mallrats, and it has a very big like Double Dragon, River City Ransom kind of feel to the game and shit.
Cool. There was a game that was teased and previewed at Microsoft's E3 Xbox showcase in like 2000 and I want to say 16 or 17, and it was like for me the last like wow, like truly wow modern sprite based, like it was the future of like modern sprite based games from what I envisioned. And it was called like Last Night, I believe it was called. And if you look up the trailers for this, it is absolutely stunning. It's obviously takes inspirations as far as the animation trees and things go, and tone from games like Flashback and Out of This World and whatnot, but it's done with 2D sprites in this incredibly like 3D layered universe, neo-noir, very cyber thriller, Blade Runner lighting. It's tough to describe it, but when you see it, I do implore all of you that listen to this at some point, look up the trailer for an Xbox game called Last Night. It ended up the guy ended up getting into some controversy or something, I don't know, and the game never ended up coming to fruition and getting finished. But it is like, it was heartbreaking to see, because it is, oh my god, oh my god. If you're a fan of sprite stuff, it's I still haven't seen anything like it.
No, I'm definitely gonna have to check this out. It might be a little bit better than that Rare Replay game that I have for my Xbox One. I love Rare, but shit, like
What was it?
it was like every game that Rare ever came out with.
Oh no,
like
I know the
shit.
I know the replay, but was there a game you were talking about specifically on there?
I mean, like, you know, because like nothing really looks polished. It basically feels like, okay, here's the ROM, put it on the disc. Here's the ROM, burn it onto the disc, burn it onto the disc.
Oh, everything's raw, like how it was. The presentation was nice, but yeah, the games themselves, like that's nothing. Like that's just it's just the original game.
I tried to play Conker's Bad Fur Day on there, and it actually had a thing that was explaining how to use the Z button for the Nintendo 64. I'm like, there's no Z button on this.
No Z button. Yeah, they didn't update that stuff. This actually, you can just see it. This Battletoads fist, and there's a Banjo Kazooie. Those are from Rare Replay. Actually, those are Rare Replay swag.
Nice.
Speaking of Conker, though, just a unpopular opinion, but I've never been able to get into that game, and I love platformers. You know, I know Conker's held on such a high regard. Every time I try and play it, I play for about 30 minutes. I'm like, I'm not into it.
Have you ever fought the Great Mighty Pooh?
I haven't. I've seen videos of the Great Mighty Pooh, but no, like I literally like start playing at the beginning, and I'm just like, meh. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I think I missed the boat on that. I think I had to play that, you know, back in the day to kind of have the nostalgia for it.
It seems to me like I like the game mainly for the play, and then the multiplayer aspect of the game as well, because I used to play that all the time with my best friends when we were just out of high school and the game came out and everything. You know, we used to play that game all the time, just multiplayer. But the storyline, on the other hand, like a lot of the stuff going on in the storyline was kind of like a mix between American and British humor. So it was kind of like they would have a lot of, you know, it was a lot of British voice acting in the game. But there were some things that might have been possibly questionable in the game, and that might be the reason why it's turned off. And it kind of feel like, I don't know, it's been a while since I actually played it off the authentic Nintendo 64.
I think it's just the humor ultimately. Like now, like you know, I love British humor and whatnot. And it's not even it's just the crudeness and the potty humor to it. You know, it's like, yeah. I think, and I would have gobbled that up if I had rented that properly back in the day. You know, as a 13, 14-year-old, I would have gobbled the shit out of it, and then I guarantee today I'd probably have this cherished nostalgia for it because of like what it did and how it pushed things on the N64 with its content and all that. But trying to play it as an adult, I prefer now like the whimsy and charm of like Mario 64. You know, I don't know. That's just sort of
Yeah, like the cutesy type stuff right there. No, the one thing that I really love though, when it concerns retro stuff, is actually teaching my son how to play some of the older stuff.
yeah. Yeah,
You
that's
know,
I would love for my kid to like video games. You know, I don't push them on.
goals.
I would like for him to like them, but I started my kid out with the same game that got me into games, which is Mario on the NES, and that wasn't because of like any nostalgia thing where I was like, you have to play what I played and loved. It really came down to a practical approach where I went like, well, I'm looking at my PS4 controller and whatnot, and you know, he's just turned 4. He's not that, you know, his hands can't reach the sticks like fully properly. There's all kinds of buttons on it. I'm like, why? What? No. Let's teach the kid fundamentals, how to move left and right, how to jump. Exactly. So I gave him the NES controller, simple D-pad, 2 buttons, right? And the Mario is a perfect. Nintendo is great at this. Nintendo are great, and maybe the best at designing levels that teach you how to play through the gameplay, right? And in that first stretch of the very first level in 1-1 of Mario, you can walk forward and then you see some bricks and you hit a button, you jump, and then you realize, oh, I can break some of these bricks or I can hit these boxes, and then a mushroom comes down. You're like, oh, okay, I can, this makes me grow. And then you hit the pipe and you can't get past, so you have to learn to jump over the pipe. And it just like, it all just teaches you within the language without being frustrating exactly what you need to do without putting any prompts up or holding your hand. It's brilliant design. And I think it's a great entry point for anybody. You know, it's just give them a Nintendo controller in Mario. They don't need all kinds of flashy graphics. They need to figure out basic problem solving skills of how to get from A to B and over this pipe. And when he can do that, I'll start moving him into something else.
Yeah, see, I had the exact same mindset on there because my son, you know, like he's wanted to play games on the Wii. He wants to play the Wii U. He wants, you know, PS3, PS4, the Xbox One, and he's like, there are games that are on these systems that he wants to play, and then he would come to me at some point and ask me, hey, can you help me beat this boss? I try to explain it to him. He'd be like, no, here, take the controller and beat the boss for me. Well, how's that help? You know what? Screw it, boy. You need to learn you need to learn the core basics. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, I mean, we're going back to the past. I'm going to give you this. I'm going to pop in a cart and you're going to play this and you're going to, you know, like for one, you're going to be able to respect the history that we as adults, you know, like grew up on this type of stuff. So he plays, you know, so he'll play Mario 3 on the regular Nintendo. He loves the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. And, you know, like, and he's actually even told me, Dad, I want to do stuff on Twitch. I'm like, you can when you're 13.
Yeah, you got to be old enough. Yeah, that's the thing. With my kid, it's you know, this, I don't even mind the history stuff. Like I'm not even bothered by any of that stuff. It was just purely like out of this like sense of, if you can't, I don't want to play the game right now. You know, like that's the whole thing where it's like I would give him something and he's like, Dad, you do it. I'm like, well, I don't want to play right now though. That's the thing. Do you want to play a game? And I'll give you something that you can play and you can figure out on your own. And recently I have tried giving him something with analog. So I gave him my Switch recently because he wanted to see, he was asking, can I play something on this TV? Like instead of in the retro den. And I was like, well, what do you want to play? And I look at my Switch and I don't have too much on there that isn't a little bit complicated, like control wise for him or difficulty wise. But then I was like, well, Mario Odyssey, like, you know, he could just run the analog around. I'll put him in the kingdom, Mushroom Kingdom at the end with the castle. And he's played Mario 64 a bit. So he kind of gets the environment. But he ended up, funny enough, loving it. It's these neat things that you don't expect, right? So like he can't really like navigate the levels properly with that little analog, and it's too loose and he can't keep Mario straight and whatnot. But what he's ended up doing is that he can throw the hat and he can just figure out the analog enough to get Mario up the ramp. So he spends like an hour or whatever, I'll let him play, literally just throwing the hat onto the globe on Mario's airship. He can pick a destination, he flies to another place, lands, and then looks around for a second and then goes back on the ship, throws a hat and flies to another destination. Right. And it's sort of like, it was this thing for me where it was kind of like, okay, well, just, I should be able to sit back and accept that he'll find a new way to play and enjoy this as opposed to like, no, you have to play it like this and go through the levels, and me thinking he'll get frustrated with stuff. You know, kids will figure stuff out for sure. But I still believe that like less is more when they're learning, you know, less is more.
like with the, you know, it ended up being a simple, you know, a similar situation where like even playing the retro games, like he would be like, I'm having trouble, you know, my son would be like, I'm having trouble getting through this. Will you help me out with this? And I mean, like, not to be a dick or anything like that, but bluntly, I just say no. And he's like, why? I'm like, your grandma didn't help me when I was playing these games. Therefore, you know, I had to figure things out on my own. It's trial and error, you know. So, you know, I'm trying to teach you the same thing as trial and error. And now he just plays the game on his own after, you know, quite a few tries of trial and error figuring out the game, because, you know, with retro games it's very easy to figure out the patterns. So now he plays Mario 3 just by himself. And
Nice.
the one
Yeah,
thing that I
it's
did
about that sense of accomplishment, right? It's about ingraining that sense of accomplishment, you know, in something.
I want that in him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not only does he have that in him like I did as a kid, but he also figured out how to do the trash talking like I do too. Like, but I'm still gonna ground him if he ends up saying, you know, like, Bowser, you are my bitch, or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
You know, because that's not something I expect him. He's gonna be like, I'm gonna trash this level.
yeah.
Like, okay, I have no problem with that. So like, okay, we got about like a little less than 10 minutes left on the on the schedule here. So I guess one of the last things that we're going to be talking about is, I guess, you know, earlier you ended up talking about the progress of how your channel and your situation, you know, your involvement with Twitch has been. So like you started off with just like, okay, you know, this is something to do, and then you started doing Channel 3 Live. Started off with the basics, started adding more and more things, and now I've also noticed that you kind of started adding more to your gameplay, i.e., you recently ended up submitting a speed run to for playing Devilish.
Yeah, yeah. So that was something new. That was another thing where it's like, don't feel because you said something one day that you can't change your fucking mind and do something, right? Like that's don't stifle your own growth. And I had said before too, like I was like, oh man, like I'm never gonna get into like speedrunning stuff. You know, it's like there's just too many games that I want to play, and and I'm a little bit more casual and I like to dabble. And like ultimately, like, you know, I respect the speedrunning like crazy. And once I started, so you know, I saw a couple and what they were actually doing with like frame counting and pixel perfect things and the technical side of what some of these guys were doing, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. But I also was like, that's just not for me, you know, like I want to just play different games all the times, not commit so much time to one thing. And then I played this game Devilish, and as I was playing it, somebody like jokingly commented like, "Oh, nobody set a time for like the world records on this game or something," and that was for normal mode. And I was like, "Really? So all I have to do is beat the game, and then I could be technically on the board." And then and they were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And then I was like, "Oh, but what's easy?" And I looked at easy, and there was some people, not many, 3 people that had put times on there, and one of them is Pete Dorr. And if you know, if you're a retro viewer, you may have crossed Pete Dorr's channel one time, and I was like, "Ooh, Pete Dorr's got first place." And I don't know, something like sparked inside of me, and I was like, "This could be fun." So I tried a few more times, and I got my first time down from like 34 minutes, and I eventually got it down to 25 minutes. And the world record on easy for first place is 20 minutes. And now it's the hurdle getting that last bit down because there's so much freaking luck involved in that game. But all I can say is like, it was that one moment, right? That spark where it's like, I get it. I get it. I get why people love doing this. Like, I get that feeling of like, because I'm a competitive guy. I'm a bit of a poker gambler too. I like I like that sort of like chase and whatnot. And just seeing like, ooh, like, it's just a fun thing. I don't know, that it was just this hook and this drive of like, oh, I'm gonna knock Pete off first place, like in this playful thing. And I get it. I totally get it.
I mean, I was the exact same way. You know, like I started off as just being a casual gamer. And, you know, so like I watched like the one guy that I watched that does streaming, that streams the speed runs is Arcus. So
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
you know, and I look up, I kind of look up to Arcus, you know, despite that, you know, he has like that kind of a clean cut PG kind of feel to it. And I'm just like, if I started getting into speed running, I'd basically be the antithesis of Arcus.
Arcus is very chill. He's very chill.
He is, and you know, and I'm like a loud, foul mouthed fucking, you know, like I'll cuss out the screen and shit like that. like, I mean, was there any other like any speedrunners that you watch or anything like that? Like,
No, not specifically. It was just sort of like, casually I saw friends that I met through Retro Block Party doing some odd runs, like Drex was doing some speed runs here and there, and then I saw Purse doing some. And then I would tuning into the Retro Block Party charity event streams that happen. I would see people every now and again doing a stream. So then I saw General Andrews and a guy doing TMNT runs and whatnot, and I don't really watch speed runs per se. Too much. JC is another guy I've seen a little bit of his Castlevania stuff. It's like I respect what's happening, but yeah, it's like going back to just like the time that I have available to watch streamers, and then the type of content I like to watch, where it's like I respect that. I have so little time, that there isn't really any specific speedrunner that I sort of watch and sort of look up to in that kind of sense. I have to say, on the speedrunning sense, it really is just all about Devilish and taking Pete Dorr off #1 spot. Like that's
although,
that's all it is right now. I don't see speedrunning bleeding into other games right now, but never say never.
never say never. Although I do have to tell you this, after that, you ended up saying, "Yeah, dude, I issue out an open challenge to anybody who wants to try to fucking beat my record
on Devilish." I would love it on the normal mode, especially because there's no competition.
Challenge accepted, sir. I ordered this 3 days ago. It's coming in tomorrow.
Oh yeah, yes.
Since I started doing speedruns, like I started doing speedruns because I watched the Best of NES's Big 20, and I saw the list of games that they had on there, and I was like, okay, here are the rules. Let's try to do this out. I started toying with it and shit, and then I watched it for myself on the Best of NES channel, and I was like, this is fantastic. Watching all of these different people doing all these different, like competing with each other and not even knowing. And so I'm like, I want to try to get in on this. One of the games that I know most about this, about this whole situation is Mario 2. So I started watching Mario 2. I watched the Mexican runner, and he was playing as Toad. I watched Arcus, and he was playing as Luigi, trying to go through the game as quick as possible. Because in a way, the Big 20 was like kind of a strategic thing for certain games. Like how is it that you're able to get through the all 20 of these games with their rules implied the fastest? And then Yogi the Monk ended up getting first place.
Cool.
So so then after that, I was like, all right, like for the longest time, I said that I wasn't going to even bother trying because I didn't think that I would be able to do that. Because more often than not, I'm just a casual player.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started doing Mario 2, and I was like, did I just beat this in like less than 20 minutes?
Nice.
Let's try to go faster.
I've never beaten Mario 2.
I was like, let's try to go faster.
Yeah, you got to go fast, man. I don't know. It's funny how certain things can get their hooks in you when you least expect it.
It literally bit the bug, So like, I mean, if you come across a game, if you come across a specific game, I mean, do you think that you're going to be able to, have it in your head? Maybe I ought to try this, or is it just going to be like Devilish for now? Like if somebody knocks you off the top spot, are you going to try to fight to get it back?
Yeah, for real. It's because this is really just a playful like diversion for me. It really is. Like it's like I'm doing it for fun, really, just mostly because when I was like I happened to be I saw that Pete was in first place for that after the fact. I watched his run of it, right, to see like what he did, and he says somewhere at the end when he gets the world record at the end of it, he says like, oh yeah. And what does he say? He says like, I don't recommend anybody speed runs this or something, and in my brain, I took that as like, oh, he says he doesn't want anybody to come touch his like record. That's all I said, right? I was like, oh, I'm fucking coming for you. I don't even do this shit, but I'm going to come for you, man. It was just like, it's honestly, it's a purely friendly, the friendliest spite thing ever. I'm purely in it because Pete, and at the end of his video, said that nobody should do Devilish unless they like to go insane, and he was and that it was a lot of work for him to get that world record, and that was it. That was enough for me just to go, oh, and totally from a non-malicious, just a playful, way of just like, oh man, I'm gonna try and knock him off, because that game legitimately, there's so much freaking luck involved. It's not a pure skill run. And he even says at one point during one of his boss battles, he says like, I'll never be able to recreate that. You know, like, and it's true. It's like what happened in that, like you can't perfectly recreate everything you do in that game. It's just never going to happen. The physics and collision will not allow that to happen. So there's a certain amount of luck in there, which makes me just go, ooh, if I can beat his world record by some sheer amount of luck, he'll probably go, fuck it. Like, I can't.
I'm curious to see what is going to be coming about because of this game, because I've never played it before. Like there's a lot of games that I have not yet played. As I said before, I got grounded a lot. So like a lot of the stuff that I've picked up over the last 3 years, because like I started with practically nothing retro wise, just due to me selling all of my stuff because of like various reasons, like I'd be out of a job or something like that. I need the money. So then I started slowly building everything up. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to pick up this. I've never played this before. I pick up this. I've never played this before. And now it's now to a point where it's like, I have new ambition for playing not only the new games that I've never played, but also for the old games that I have basically memorized for the most part. Nothing like as I guess as meticulous as sprite work and perfect frames and things of that nature. So it's like it's a constant learning curve for me personally. Like, I mean, I'm assuming that if you were to try to be like, okay, well, like I guess I'll try to put myself on the board for this game. I'm sure that it would probably be the same for you. Like, is this something that you would want to continue trying to venture in? Is like trying to speed other games?
Not. I mean, never say never, like I say, but it's not in my brain right now. Like, and I really don't try, and like I don't put a lot of thought into what I'm going to be playing in the future either, really, because I'm a very indecisive guy, and ultimately, I don't want to say that I'm streaming something and then like I play with what I feel like playing, regardless. Yeah. It's like if I'm right now I'm trying to work on Resident Evil 7 VR, but getting into setting up my stuff for VR and like actually doing that, and that's an experience, getting inside the helmet and the whole thing and living in that and doing that, like that's an exhausting freaking thing. And it's like I have to be in the freaking mood to do this, So I really like leading up to a stream an hour before the stream, that's when I kind of decide, what am I doing? What am I gonna do?
So, like, okay, how many games do you have like total in your collection?
Oh, my physical collection isn't that large. I like you over the years sell stuff as I need to and whatnot. It's and I don't have a lot of space, so I generally I would say like physically, there's probably what glasses. It's not a ton physically. There's probably maybe 200 physical. Okay. Across multiple consoles, right? And what ended up, I made the decision for the stream because I wanted to keep adding more. I play all on the original hardwares with the base controllers and whatnot, but after about a year of streaming, I found out about EverDrives and things like that. So the EverDrives, at first I was like, well, I don't know. It didn't feel quite right, and because I want to do original hardware, and I was talking with Sharpie and other guys, and they're like, well, it's not emulation. Like it's the pure ROMs. You're playing them through your hardware, and here's what these carts, and this is how it works. And they're a great sort of investment for things that you'll just never be able to find or are incredibly rare, but you want to check out and play. And it's also a great way of just testing out games before you might want to add them to your collection and whatnot. And I was like, oh, okay. And I ended up making the plunge with one of them. I think the N64 one was my first. And admittedly, I had said buying those won't slow down my physical buying of stuff, but they did because, with the coronavirus and everything that's going on, and like I'm completely out of work myself. I've been out of work since March, basically.
Yep.
It all just became a resource sort of thing. And I went, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. And once I had it and I popped it into my system, the value of it and the ease of it, and I just went, this is fine. I need to get over the fact that like it has to be the original cart itself in the box, like as far as like my setup goes, because I wanted to be able to stream a huge variety of stuff. Simple as that.
I have an EverDrive for my regular Nintendo. I do plan on getting EverDrives for the other cart systems. However, like the only rule that I've given myself with that is if I don't own it physically, then I'm not even gonna put it on the cart. Like, do you do the same, or do
Oh
you?
no, because then, because I wouldn't have bought it then, right? I purely bought it because of for financial reasons, looking at the grand scheme of things, where it's like I really want to be able to play something. It's different. I am 100% against piracy and things like that, especially when it comes to stuff you can actually go out and buy in a store. But like, let's be real. A lot of these 30-year-old games do not exist anywhere that you can actually go and buy them and give the publisher, the developers, the money. Or they're out there and there's like they're asking $300 for the world's shittiest game. It's like I'm not going to spend over $100 because I want to play Treasure, who's one of my favorite developers, McDonald's game. Like
I
I didn't.
would.
Yeah, I know what I'm saying, but it's saying I'm not a collector in that sense. I do like to collect and I like to have stuff, but I don't have this ambition of like owning every single box Genesis game. I only physically buy the stuff that I genuinely enjoy playing. And that's why my library stays like manageable and small. Like there isn't a single disc or cart in here. Well, no, that's actually not true. There's probably a couple discs. But for the most part, 99% of this stuff is 100% like stuff that I genuinely love to play. It's not there to sit on a shelf to look cool or collect value. It's because I want to play this freaking game, and that's why I bought it. And the EverDrive is for everything else. So like, will I continue to buy stuff on the N64? For sure. But am I going to buy stuff that I don't have nostalgia for or genuinely freaking love and have to have this to play it all the time? No.
No, like the vast majority reason why I did that was for two main reasons. One, so that way the games that I do own, like, because my intention is not just to keep them on the shelves. I want to play everything, and now that I'm doing speed runs, I want to get a placement for every physical game that I own in every possible way, shape, or form.
Nice.
So like even eventually, I'm pretty much deciding as to whether or not I want to figure out how to do swordless Legend of Zelda runs. Those
Nice.
those sound like near impossible for my brain to comprehend, but eventually
That's
I'll probably.
that's gonna be a tough one. But like preservation, right, is probably a huge thing for you in that sense, of where it's like,
Yeah.
you're only gonna put games on there that you buy. Like when I hear things like that, that comes from a place of preservation. Like that's what I hear. And that's what's great about those EverDrives, though. They have all that sort of versatility of like that's what you want it for. And I mean, that's kind of the purpose of them in a sense, right? Like, we all use them outside of sort of like the realms, but let's also be real in the sense that like the digital copyright laws and things like that are so outdated and bizarre when it comes to ROMs and all this stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like everything
Mhm.
has been created before this digital explosion and revolution that we've had over the last 10 years. It's a different landscape. It's a different time. This whole thing with Twitch and the music and the strikes and like, I get it from a certain perspective, but also like our laws are so outdated when it comes to digital copyright.
Agreed. Although the second reason why I do that too is because of that digital copyright shit. Primarily because like there's also a hacking community that's out there.
Yep.
So like you have to patch the hack to the ROM and then put it on, and then after that you can put it on the EverDrive, and you're actually able to play like Mario Adventure, a Mario 3 hack on your Nintendo.
That's a really cool thing to bring up too, and something that I didn't realize when I first got it, right? Because I'm not that technical when it comes to that stuff. And I was watching Mr. Scoot stream, and him and Andy were playing on the N64, playing two-player Super Mario 64. Like literally on the hardware with a hacked ROM loaded onto the thing, and they were playing it on the N64 hardware with two controllers, just like you would at home. The game's running a little bit poor, but there it is. It's using the hardware and it's running both Mario and Luigi in co-op Mario 64. Like that to me is just another like, whoa, like you can do this on this stuff. You can totally add ROM hacks of your favorite games and play them on your original hardware. It's a really neat thing.
Yeah. And another game, as a prime example, is WWF No Mercy for the Nintendo 64. There's been a huge hacking community where people have actually like manipulated the game in order to make it so like they would have like all the whole instead of WWF No Mercy, everything looks like AEW or old school WCW from back in the day.
Oh, cool.
Like Mexican luchador wrestling, Japanese, New Japan, so like all of these different promotions for professional wrestling. I mean, these people are huge into pro wrestling. They change everything up so that way every character looks exactly like certain luchadors or something like that. There are moves that are incorporated that aren't even in the game. Like they put a lot of equity into the hacking for that game, and it's like you can't find this on a physical copy. And not to mention, I wouldn't want to buy this on a physical copy because then I'm just buying the ROM that I can just get on romhacks.net for free.
Sure, yeah. But it is nice. Like some people put these like really wonderful packages together where like, yeah, you can go and get it for free as well. But for those that are like collectors and whatnot, like you can get some amazingly like well-produced like box art and labels and cards and everything, like custom things made for those ROMs as well, right? It's not in my realm of like collecting, but I gotta say, like, when I see something like that where somebody is so as an example, I haven't seen this one, but somebody's done the Mario 64, right? It's the hacked ROM and it's rebuilt, and they've made maybe some quality of life things in there to the ROM, like your lives don't disappear when you're on your saves, and Luigi's in there, and they've made a freaking like actual box for it with a manual and the stickers on the cart. Like that stuff to me blows me away, and I think that's really amazing, but it's not for me, but I appreciate it. I appreciate that it's there.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Like the one thing that I will say that I give major props to the hacking community was making a co-op version of the original Super Mario Brothers. And I used to play that with my son on Saturdays, like right around the 3 o'clock in the afternoon every Saturday. He and I would go on my original channel on Crazy McCormick channel, and we'd sit there and we'd play that. There's actually still clips of me me and him just constantly screwing up in that game.
That's very cool. Very cool. So both you're on the screen at the same time?
Yeah.
Cool.
We share the screen, and it still has the same rules that apply where like if one character's at the end of the screen, then it just stops the whole game. So like the other character can't progress any farther.
Yeah, so he could end up in a pit when he's trying to make a jump across to the land if the other guy hasn't scrolled the screen over to see the land.
Yeah. Or it would end up being me falling into the pit because he just stopped.
Yeah, of course.
Or something like that. Or so like, and it's actually a rather good bonding experience for me and him, which I thought was really cool because like I'm teaching him the ropes. I already know the ropes, and I'm just basically like, okay, look, just follow me. Everything will be all right.
Wait, you're not like, just figure it out.
not in this sense. Mainly, it's just like, okay, just follow Dad. Dad knows what he's doing. And then after that, he'll be like, after a while, he'll be like, "Ha! I got the mushroom first." I'm like, why did you take the mushroom? You're already big. I don't know. I thought it would give me a fire flower. We tried this before.
You idiot.
It's just like, no, you don't do that.
Yeah. You just turn off the system. You hit the power button with your toe.
Well, I mean, the system's like out of my reach, so like I can't do that.
There you go.
What I can't do is I can just like push his head to the side or something like that.
I think I saw that move like 20 minutes ago.
He was over here, but he was like handing me a shirt or something. I don't know what he was doing. Oh yeah, he was handing me a shirt, and then I was just like, all right, because as soon as he knows that the green screen is up, I'm most likely live.
Yeah.
So like, and then that was something that I've tried to get a lot of people in my family to understand. It's like I do this. This is something that I feel is kind of important to me. But like my kids are, they're older, they're a little bit more independent. They kind of understand. Dad does stuff on social media, so they leave me alone. That's actually me. But like like he knows that when there's a time, that there's always going to be a time for me and him to be able to do stuff. And like I said before, he's very interested in doing stuff on Twitch. I'm like, I'll teach you how to do stuff on Twitch. When you're older, you'll be able to do this stuff a little bit more independently. Maybe if dad's at work or something like that, or I can just build you a rig or something, you know. And he likes that idea. He likes the idea of everything that's going on with this type of stuff, being able to create a community and building and all of that other stuff. He sees what I've been doing because I've been on social media for like the last 13 years, not just with Twitch, but also with doing stuff on YouTube, building communities and having interactions with the crowd, both on and off camera.
Yeah, that was something we didn't touch on too much. I know we've run out of time here, but just sort of the importance of community and whatnot, because that was something when I first started streaming before Channel 3 Live. I was working in games media, so I was getting like pre-release games, and it was all modern, mostly modern stuff that I was doing on the channel. And I only did retro on Thursday nights, but it was like because I was just playing pre-release games for review, I was getting people coming just for that game and then be like, are you playing this game after it comes out? I'm like, well, no, I'm just playing it for review, and you're getting a tease of it, and then like I'll be done. I'll be playing something else, kind of thing. So I wasn't building community. I was having lots of people come watch this game that I was playing, but the moment I was done playing that game, they were gone. They were there for the game, not for me.
Right.
And that was something that I learned coming back into Channel 3 Live, and like finding the retro community and finding the retro block party community, and just sort of like injecting myself a little bit and actually realizing like, oh, like people are actually making friends doing this. Like these people are actually seem like real friends. Like that's really fucking cool. That was something that was missing from before because people were coming for the game, not for me. And I learned a lot of lessons in the first couple months of doing Channel 3 Live through the retro community and how great that retro community is. Because for those that don't know, it really is something special, because there's just Twitch in general, I think, is kind of a toxic place. But when you're dealing with these massive games like, Fortnites and Call of Duties and things like that, you're getting this huge group of people and a lot of younger people as well. And it's just, there's a lot of clashing of ideals and sensibilities. And I find in the retro community, just by the nature of the content itself, the average age is 30 plus. Everybody's sort of like beyond the bullshit high school stuff. Not everybody, we all have our moments, but I just find the community just much more chill, respectful, and like-minded, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like with me, everybody that I know has already known that I've always had an affinity for old school gaming, and things of that nature. Nobody else does, but they respect that I do. But however, like this is one of the reasons why I created a secondary channel for the more modern stuff. And it seems to be an okay platform, because like I've actually, for me personally, like it's actually people coming in because they don't, some people come in for like organic people are coming in because of what type of game I'm playing, but then they also see that I have somewhat of a personality, so they'll stick around for the personality. And then I'll be like, I have this other channel and I play retro. I don't play retro games on that one. I play modern games on that one. And then they'll come over there because they like my personality on that one. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Well, that's generally how it is too, right? It's like the thumbnail and the title gets them in, right? But that's not going to keep them there.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say this too. I found Twitch, like you said, that Twitch is kind of a toxic community. I've actually found Twitch to be a lot less toxic than YouTube. I will say that.
Oh, really? Yeah. I'm not. See, that's the thing. I'm not in on the YouTube community either. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know it feels weird, and when I talk about it, because a lot of friends like live on YouTube and whatnot, and it's like that's where they get all their content and their videos, and it's like, but I just I watch movie trailers and whatnot, and like. I'm such a freaking movie guy. Like I shit you not, that like when I'm not streaming myself and doing that, I'm probably at home watching a movie. I'm not on YouTube watching a whole bunch of stuff and little clips and reels of people, and I'm not on Twitch too much doing stuff. I'll usually be watching streams when I raid. That's like when I get some stream time in. If I wake up before the kid does in the morning, I'll watch a little bit of Twitch if I can. And after I raid somebody at the end of the night, I hang out there and I watch that stream for a bit. But generally speaking, like during the day, I'm not waking up and turning on Twitch. I'm turning on my Netflix and chilling out with a cup of tea and a movie.
Right. Speaking of Netflix, I just recently started watching Indiana Jones again.
Nice. Love Indiana.
Oh yeah, I just finished watching Raiders, and now I'm about to get my short round on.
Nice.
Raiders
Raiders is easily my for me. I think it's the best of the bunch. But as when I was growing up, Last Crusade was always my favorite.
It's Sean Connery.
Oh yeah, Connery, and I just love the scene with the birds and the whole motorcycle chase and the comedy and the blimp. There's just so much stuff I love about that movie. But Raiders, man, Raiders is a classic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like honestly, with Raiders, it was finding out about the Ark of the Covenant and Karen Allen. As far as I'm concerned, just hands down, like that. That's the main reason I want to watch it.
Here's a little bit of a mind fuck though that a friend of mine pointed out to me, and we're talking about the importance of characters and or the unimportance of certain characters in certain stories, and Raiders of the Lost Ark has got to be one of the bigger examples that he's pointed out to me where you could literally remove Indiana Jones from that movie and the fate still would have ended the same way.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that way. Like he's such a central part to it. But if you actually removed him from the story, nothing would have changed.
Yeah, because the Nazis would have eventually found the Ark, and
they still would have found it and opened it up and did their thing. Exactly. Yeah. He's inconsequential actually to the story. If anything, he just delays things.
No, actually, I think that he sped up the discovery of the Ark of the Covenant.
Maybe, oh yeah, I guess because they found him. They see him digging it out. Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have just been a 3-hour movie of people digging.
You're right. They sped it up. He sped it up. There you go. So he's not totally inconsequential.
Yeah, he just sped up the time frame to be able to find it because he has that central villain in Belloc, and then and then he ends up finding the Ark before Belloc does, using his own methods rather than Belloc just hiring a bunch of people to dig in the desert.
Yeah. Oh wait, so wait a minute. Maybe the point was that if Indiana wasn't in the movie, they never would have found the Ark. That's
okay. Extend this to the Raiders of the Lost Ark Part 3, Still Digging.
Let's go. Yeah.
Exactly. Like another 3-hour movie of them digging, and it's an even deeper hole.
It just keeps going in.
You just sit there and you watch this like, Steven Spielberg, what are you doing? You're like, screw this. I'm gonna go watch a Lucas movie.
Even the greats make mistakes.
Very true. Because we've all watched Super Mario Brothers the movie. No, I loved it too.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, that's why I love it.
Yeah, there's a lot of guilty pleasures for me in the video game realm. Like we were talking about Street Fighter before. I actually really like the Street Fighter movie. It's campy, it's cheesy. I think everybody's in on the camp and the cheese though, so it works for me. It totally works for me. And I have to admit, I still legitimately like the original Mortal Kombat. So much so that like Mortal Kombat 2 is like probably the biggest train wreck of all of them for me because it's such a disaster. But that first Mortal Kombat movie, I still genuinely have a lot of appreciation for.
With Mortal Kombat Annihilation, I honestly have to say that I think I watched this movie and I'm like, there's only so much cheese that I can intake before I feel like I can't swallow this tripe anymore.
It was legitimately the first movie. I think I was probably 15 or 16 when the second one came out. Mm-hmm. It was the first movie that I wanted to walk out of in a movie theater.
Oh my!
And I've only, I think, in my life had that thought twice. But the first time, no doubt, was Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I wanted to yell out "boo" at one point because it was such a disaster after the second movie. Like, not even comparable.
Like, you just want to go up there, cut the screen off so that way nobody else can watch it.
Yeah. I have a couple of really fun memories of the original Mortal Kombat releasing in theaters, and one of them being saw it in theaters the first time, loved it, and then it was 14A, I think, in Canada at the time. Which means if you could see it if you were younger than that, but you would have to be with an adult. And I was 14, I think, at the time. So I saw it the first time myself, and I wanted to go see it a second time, but I didn't have cash. So I wanted my mom to take me, basically, right? I tried to get her to take me and my brother, and she's like, "Well, what is it like?" My brother's quite a bit younger than me. He would have been, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12 at the time of the first Mortal Kombat, and maybe 10, Let's say 11. Anyways, I'm like, oh no, it's totally fine, mom. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. And the opening scene happens, and it's not bloody, but it's ominous, and it's Shang Tsung like breaking fucking Liu Kang's. Yeah, and he jumps on his back, Liu, and I'm like 3 or 4 rows away with my friend, sitting away from my mom, and I just see my mom look over her shoulder back at me with just like this look on her face, like, oh, you son of a like. She knew it. She knew it. It's totally not appropriate for my brother, but it was too late.
But then fucking then Liu Kang wakes up and you're just like, look, it's fine. Look, it's Mowgli.
It's fine.
Look, Mowgli's in the fucking movie.
But he wasn't. He wasn't.
Oh
Different
yeah.
actor.
At the time, probably, I think he came out with Mortal Kombat and then he did the Jungle Book movie.
No, different guy. Different guy.
No, I'm pretty sure that it was the same guy.
No.
I'm looking at. You know what? Fuck you. I'm looking this up on IMDb right now.
Robin Shou played Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat, and Jason Lee, I think his name.
No, I'm pretty sure it's the same guy.
No, Jason Lee, the guy who played Bruce Lee in the Bruce Lee movie. It played Mowgli.
I'm double checking.
Do it.
Right, so I'm looking up Robin Chow.
Do it. Robin Shou is the actor from Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
And something Lee, Jason Lee, or something is in Jungle Book. He was also in.
It's like they look very similar. So
I'm the movie guy.
Okay. All right, then kiss my ass. Right, so I'm wrong. Okay, yes. So he played Gobi in Beverly Hills Ninja, but that was like after Mortal Kombat. So if you went to Mortal Kombat Annihilation, on the other hand, then it would have been right. So so like, okay, I will take the bump on that one. Like, that is my fault. Okay, so I mean, hey, I've only got 2 people watching this at this point, so there's only 2 people that can be like, aha, you moron. Crazy McCormick sucks at movies. Oh yeah,
it's probably just me and you too. It's probably just me and you on our
thing. No, it's Tree Man, and he's throwing He-Man emojis at me.
Oh, how come I can't see that stuff?
I don't know.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
Oh, I see it now. I was on private chat. I see comments. I see.
Yep. Yeah. So there's a couple of people that had comment over the time, and one of them being my friend Emily, basically saying, "You cuss out the game, me, the stream, and anybody." Well, that's right. Like, I am probably one of the most raw-mouthed motherfuckers in here. That I mean, I've even seen like TMR, like he'll cuss the game out every once in a while, and I'm just like, no, dude, you need to have like a dialogue tree of profanity in order to get up to my fucking level.
You gotta get up that level. Yeah. I keep my profanity pretty low, to the point where it's like, even saying bitch, I'll often be like, oh, you son of a beautiful lady.
I saw that shit. I laugh at that every time you do that too. Like with me, I'm just like, cocksucker, motherfucker, son of a bitch. What the hell are you doing? Jump over the like A button. Why you no work?
Exactly. It's one of those things where it's like, I have no issue with language and people running their stream however they want. The only reason I ended up ultimately trying to like pull myself back is one day I had a friend say like after a day of like, after not swearing so much, I had a day where I was swearing a whole lot. And they're like, whoa, like what's going on? I usually have you on in the background, like while my kids are like watching TV or something. And I was like, I never thought about that. So like, ultimately it was like, I made this conscious decision where I want to make my, the content as broad as I can, in a sense. It's not just to the point where I don't have to put any adult warnings. Like I want younger generations to be able to come in at, 13, whatever age they are, and be able to feel, comfortable joining the chat and getting in with the environment, and the same level as like, people over 60 coming in and whatnot. I just sort of that comforting sort of zone, in a sense, all encompassing. But maybe it can be a mistake as well. Maybe it's a mistake trying to be broad as opposed to narrowing. You never know, right? You do what works for you, and the audience comes, or doesn't.
Basically how I looked at it too, because like I watch Arcus. Arcus has like 562 people viewing. Actually, I think he's on right now. He's got like 223 people watching him play The Legend of Zelda. And then like with me, I'll probably have somewhere. I think the best that I've ever had is somewhere around like like organically, like prior to raid. I think I probably had like maybe 11 or something like that as being my best. I see you average somewhere around like 20, 23. But like with me, like for one, I'm still, you know, getting my bearings and stuff, but I still have my rules. I don't want to censor anything that I say. If you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and don't worry about it, because the way that I look at it, people my age are going to mostly want to be the ones that want to watch this anyways. And I've even had people, even my mods, say, you know, Crazy's actually a really cool, chill dude. He just has a mouth that makes a sailor get embarrassed.
Sure.
And I'm like, that's just me though. And so, you know, I don't try to, I try to make it look professional, but I'm not going to sound as professional. I just want to come off as, you know, the regular guy.
Totally.
You know,
apologies too if you guys can hear the there's a big garbage truck that has just now decided to pull up behind me here. But I just wanted to touch on one last thing, because it was you know, we were talking about, you know, Arcus having hundreds of people, and then, you know, you sort of averaging recently around 11 and whatnot. And it was like, you know, when I first started streaming, I had like all this sort of like support and like hype behind the channel, and it was like built, it was, you know, the numbers each month were going higher and higher and higher and higher. And then I took my break, and it was like the conveyor belts, you know, I was gone for months, and getting back on that conveyor belt, nothing waits for you. You're kind of like, it was basically like starting all over again. It's, you know, outside of, you know, Tim's been great. You know, there was a good, you know, a handful of people that were always going to be there, but everybody else had sort of fallen off because there wasn't regular content and whatnot. And that discouraged me at first. I started to feel a little bit, because when you're doing stuff like Twitch, there's so much pressure that kind of comes around now in this environment, where it's like all your success is based on how many people you have watching, right? And that got into my head a little bit after I took my break, and I came back and my numbers were 50, 60, 70% down from like where they were when I left.
right.
And I still haven't gotten the numbers back up to where they were. And somebody mentioned something that just really kind of made me like let go of all that stuff, and really base the success of just like, are you having fun? Because that's what it is, right? Like if you're not having fun, then it's dead in the water right away. So like, if you finish and you're having fun, then bonus. And they said, look at it like this way. Like, who cares if you have 2 people watching? Think about it this: you're at school, right? You're out on the playground, and there's 2 to 5 people sitting there hanging on every word you're saying and what you're doing. That's fucking cool in itself, right? That you're able to just like, you've got a circle. Now imagine you're outside your school and there's 10 people, and they're all just listening to you. You're telling your stories, and you have 10 people captivated by like what you're doing. Like, that's fucking cool. And then it just keeps escalating, like 100 people. Now you filled up the gym auditorium. Like, so I just had this thing where it was like, stop thinking that you need to have a certain number of people watching for that to be considered a success in your mind. Like, if you've got 2 people hanging on to your every word, or 100 people hanging on to your every word, like, that's fucking cool. And like, I that really kind of re-inspired me in a sense, where it's like, it's not about numbers anymore. It's about showing up and having fun. Don't let them. I am a numbers guy. I like crunching that stuff. I used to, after every stream, fucking decipher, just, you know, go through everything, compare everything, look at people that I looked up to, and look at their Twitch track stats, because everything is public. For those that don't know, you can go and check out everybody's, you know, stats through Twitch Tracker and things like that, and see, you know, what their time's like, what they're averaging, all that stuff. And I used to just like compare and analyze and all that stuff, and it starts getting to your head a little bit, because you start creating this false sense of like what you should be doing in order to be seen as successful and whatnot. And once I was able to let that shit go and just go, 5 people is listening to me is just as good as it doesn't matter. I've got people captivated by what I'm doing. They're hanging out. And then I put that into a real world situation where, imagine I had 5 people just standing in my living room, literally fucking just sitting there listening to me tell stories. That's fucking cool. That's like right there.
That just reminded me of something that happened with me. Before I get into it, though, I want to tell you this. Like, Tree Man's, if you can see it in the chat, he says, you know, that's how you can tell a good streamer from a great streamer, and he's big upping you. You know, like, you were smart to take away the most popular bit alert for viewers, since it wasn't fun for you to do that anymore.
Oh yeah, so Tim's talking about the hey yeah. So like, I do this like big 2-minute, you know, the whole meme, hey yeah yeah yeah. So I had this 2-minute alert with He-Man riding a pony that like goes past, and I sing the song, and it was a huge thing, and the channel was kind of like, that was its thing, the hey yeah, you know.
But it kept happening a little bit too much.
Well, and then I put the dollar amount like quite a bit higher, the bid amount, you know, to a point where it's like just to discourage it going off too much, and it still goes off quite a bit, which was great. But after a year of it, like it just for me personally, it got tiring to do, you know, and like maybe as a viewer, like maybe you only make it out once or twice a month to the stream, so maybe you only see it once or twice, right? But maybe I've been doing it every day, you know, and like or multiple times a day, and it's like anything. You listen to this, you got a favorite song. Eventually, though, like you know, you listen to it every day for a month, and eventually, you're like you know, like I'm not enjoying it, and that's what happened with the Hey Ya alert, and it was like. I said to everybody then, it's just like sometimes you have to make those tough decisions where it's like everybody does love something, but I'm not loving doing it anymore. And I felt bad taking it away, you know, but it was one of those things where it's just like I would see it get popped, and it got to the point where I was like, you know, like I appreciated the fact that people wanted to like have that pop and donate the bits and whatnot, but it became this like a chore for me ultimately, even though everybody else loved it. I had to make the tough call for myself to go, this isn't fun anymore. And I feel like that it was reflected. I feel like I didn't look like I was having fun doing it, you know? So it just,
you gotta so like when you don't feel something, you just gotta
listen to what's inside.
Exactly. You know? And you know, the hardcore fans are gonna understand that shit.
Yeah, you got to do what's going to work for you ultimately, because everybody can see, you know, the camera doesn't lie. You know, the camera picks up on shit. If you're in a bad mood, the camera is going to pick up on it, which is why I also will not be holden to a time. If I'm like, oh, I'm streaming 8 to midnight tonight. Like if I start streaming at 8 o'clock and after an hour, I'm just like, yo, guys, you know what? I'm just really not feeling it, you know, and I can, you know, and whatnot. I'll let everybody know that, you know, we're going to end it here. Let's, you know, kind of thing. I won't stream unless I'm up for it anymore. And I used to just be like, nope, this is my start time on this night. I'm there. And now it's been much more, no. Stream when you want, stream when you're feeling it, stream what you want, when you want, you know, and that's it. It's about you doing what you want to do. And if people want to join you and can make it out, cool. If not, you're doing what you want to do anyway. So you're having fun.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Like I kind of wanted to stream last night, but I wasn't feeling like it, so I just didn't. Like I just totally removed my schedule.
Yeah, I've done that myself with like the COVID stuff. I started streaming more when I was out of work. I was like doing 2 streams a day, a new daytime stream, and then my normal evening stream, and eventually like it just became too much, and I was like spreading myself too thin, and I actually just removed the schedule and said like, you know, these are I think I said like I'll try and stream on these are the days I will be streaming, you know, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, every other Sunday, but there's no real start time. Pay attention to the Discord. I'll always update when I am going to stream or if I'm going to cancel a stream and whatnot. But I've taken Channel 3 into a much more casual sort of place. You know, there was a point when I started where I went, yes, this is now a dream, a goal of mine, full-time streaming, got to do it. But then separation, life, just time, everything. And I kind of went, man, like in order to do what I want to do with the stream, to get it to the level I want to do it full time, the amount of work that takes, which is I'm prepared for that ultimately, but it wasn't something that I want. I could do the work, but at what sacrifice, you know?
Yeah,
I already felt like I had sacrificed my social life and some friends and stuff when I was first doing the channel, because it was still like I have to do it, the amount just to do those tricks that you saw and all that. It takes time and effort. And I went, man, I got something has to be sacrificed here a little bit for the better of everything, for my own personal well-being, mental health. So I cut back on the stream into a more casual affair. And I think a lot of people will sort of be disappointed in that in a sense, but it was what was best for me, you know?
Yeah. So aside from that, like there was actually something I was gonna try to explain as I guess as an example to your previous thing. So I listened to, you know, I like the one thing like you are to movies, like I'm kind of more into music.
Cool.
Now I'm a huge fan of the band Insane Clown Posse, and they had a video game convention a few years ago. It ended up getting canceled mid event, and so like the hotel that everybody was staying at, we just took it over. We just took over the whole lobby. Me and a couple of other people that were like doing video game events at that convention, we took over the TV that was in the lobby, and I didn't even pay attention to any of what was going on outside of what was going on the television. So like I'm playing Mario Kart 8 with another Twitch streamer now. His name is Keegan. He runs a show called Shaggy and the Creep. And I also do. And then when he was done, I hooked up my Retron 5 and I started playing Mario Hacks. And I'm playing these for like an hour, and I'm like, I suddenly start getting the feeling that I'm being watched. Like, you know, that feeling, it kind of
Uh-huh.
like an anxious dread kind of feel.
Yeah.
I start looking around. There's like 15 people watching me play the video game behind me. I'm like, the fuck?
Nice.
It's like, all I'm doing is I'm just sitting here playing Nintendo. Like, what the hell is going on? People are just like what you saw. Like,
Yeah.
we like what we saw. You just sitting there playing video games. And I was like, I just played what I felt like playing. And people just kind of gravitated towards that.
Well, that's the thing too, where it's always like you if you're into something, other people are going to be into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it might be something niche, but it doesn't matter. It's always like you see that question online. You know, people are like, "Am I the only one who thinks?" No, you're not. You know, you might feel like, "Oh man, I'm the only one that like thinks like this and like likes this kind of thing," and I won't do the stream exact. I won't do my thing exactly like this because nobody will like that. I'll do something that I think people will like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a mistake.
Yeah.
That's a mistake. Don't do what you think people will like. Do what you want to do, what you want to watch. Provide the stuff that you would want to participate in and what you would like to watch, and like-minded people will find you.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with like, because I like I said before, I used to do a lot of stuff on YouTube stuff, and it was it was that ICP fan specific content, and I was like, I want to try something else. So I went over to Twitch, and I was like, you guys, like, you guys are watching my stuff. I know you know who I am. Why don't you come over here and check out what I'm doing on this one? They're like, no, we don't want to open up another account. All right,
Yeah.
fuck you then. I'm going to be over here.
Mhm.
It's like, I'm going to be doing my thing because this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow, but I mean, it was kind of a slap in the face for you saying, we just don't want to open up another account.
Well, it's
We already
tougher,
watch your content
right?
over here. Well, over there.
I get it. It's funny because we live in this like world of like apps and digital things, and yet, I'm very old school in the sense too, where it's like, I don't want to do other apps. You know, it's like, I'm like, I this is where I am. And people ask me all the time, like, oh, I really prefer like YouTube. Like, what do you think about streaming over on YouTube? And I was like, well, I can't stream at the same time as an affiliate. It needs to be after the fact. I can't split the stream to that. I don't want to split my audience. And to be honest with you, like, this is where I've made my home right now. Like, I like the community here, and this is what it is. And it's unfortunate that like, because of some UI stuff, you have closed the door to using this platform as opposed to another. But like, this is where it is.
I kind of found like a small loophole in that, because I found it between like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Twitch is the easiest community in order to try to get affiliate. And I'm like, okay, the second closest one to getting a partner, whether on Facebook or YouTube is better. So I'm like, well, why don't I just do the stuff on Twitch? If I do something good, like a speed run or something like that, I'll just highlight it, and then I'll export the highlight over to YouTube. There.
Yeah, for me, they're different disciplines. I know YouTube has its live streaming service and whatnot, but I just like the home on Twitch because like that's it. Although Twitch has now expanded and it's not just video games, it's basically an entertainment platform in that sense, especially with COVID and everybody coming on board. That's what it was initially, and that's what its home is. It's really still in its blood as a video game platform.
Yeah.
And YouTube, for me, YouTube it's still a curated, pre-made content sort of platform, despite it having all the live services. Like, I don't think of YouTube myself. I'm very old school too, but I don't think of YouTube as a streaming platform, even though it totally is. It's an absolutely viable platform to stream on. It's just, I don't see it that way. Like I see Twitch is where you stream video games, and YouTube is where I go watch pre-recorded like Angry Video Game Nerd and, and edited short films and things that are pre-made and created and edited and put up there, not live stuff.
Yeah. And, I have friends that all do like live streams. They all use this platform specifically for them, like StreamYards. Like StreamYard, they use that to record and do their platforms live on YouTube. Some people just use OBS and things like that. And I'm like, I don't know. When I started doing stuff on YouTube, it was all pre-recorded and edited and everything. And even if it was a vlog, like we could, and snap, we would just make videos talking about our opinions and snap fights and shit like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do live streaming like that, like it's an actual show on there. Like if Twitch is the app to go on for streaming, then we should just go on, which is part of the reason why us now here on the Sid Jones Network, we're moving over to Twitch from Facebook because Facebook sucks. So like we
I've
decided
never used it as a stream platform, so
yeah, like Facebook, I usually use just to Russell Jimmy's, which is also why I'm on a 3-day ban right now on Facebook. But aside from that, like we want to try to use this platform to to create our own shows, like mine here on the for the Retrospective and a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I interviewed you, because like you're into gaming, I'm into gaming, and that's what my show is about. I'd rather have it like that. And to do it on Twitch as a platform and be able to do stuff in order to make some sort of an affiliate monicum of success. It just seemed like it's more understandable the place to go.
Sure, yeah.
But I mean, shit. I think we're like 45 minutes over what my show normally is, but
and I gotta pee.
So do I. I gotta pee. I gotta smoke too. So
cool.
So I guess we're gonna get off of this. Is there anything that you have left to say before we cut this out?
No. Thank you all for hanging out. If you're watching this in an archive somewhere else after the fact, thank you for watching. And reach out if you ever have questions about anything, because I'm an open book as well. I'm not one of those streamers that will close a gate on you. If you ever see anything on my channel and you're like, how does he do that or whatever, please ask away. I'm happy to help you out and give you some direction. And no, if you've enjoyed hanging out, I guess just go check out my stuff. Go check out my Twitch at ChannelThreeLive, twitch.tv/ChannelThreeLive, and you can find me on Twitter at Channel3Live_ kind of thing. Just go find my Twitch, see if you like it.
Yeah, I put your link in the chat. So and nice. In post, I'll also put this in the description, so that way people can check you out if they watch this and they like what they see. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to show any of the stuff that you do, but you know what? If you follow Rory on Channel3Live on Twitch, then you'll be able to see some interesting fucking content.
Go check out the stuff. And remember, kids, just do what you love and good stuff will happen, okay? Like, that's been my motto over the last little while. And it's cheesy, but it's true. Just do what you love and good stuff will happen.
Basically, if you build it, they will come.
Follow your dreams, kids.
You can reach your goals and live improve. Beefcake! All right. So with that being said, for Rory with Channel3Live, I'm Crazy McCormick. Thank you for watching the Retrospective. And we're out this bitch, y'all. Deuces.
Later.